Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Of course, taught me, all of the basics of road racing. To be able to come here and to win this race 10 years later is really special. So a lot of hard work's gone into this, and to be locked into the chase is huge.
At the end of the day, you got to look at the positives. We got a point. We're on 4 points now. It's going to go down to the last game, and, hopefully we get the job done.
Well, a winner and a tire from over the weekend. That was Carl Edwards winning for the first time out at Sonoma yesterday, holding off a fast-closing Jeff Gordon in an exciting finish to the the Sprint Cup race. I'll showing my age now, going back to Winston Cup. The Sprint Cup race out on the West Coast. And, of course, the American soccer team. I had to watch. I watched yesterday.
Got addicted there.
Got a little caught up in a soccer fever. I was watching the Mexicans and the Croatians play. Mexico has won, by the way, so they advanced. But I couldn't believe, by the way, that was a comment from goalkeeper. Was that Clint Dempsey? That was Clint Dempsey, the former Furman star who scored the go-ahead goal for the Americans. Looked like that was going to put them into the round of 16. And, turnovers, how often do we say, turnovers, they get you killed. And the Americans, Michael Bradley, turned it over in the midfield area, and Portugal went down. And I'm trying to talk soccer. My man, is it Ronaldo?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, Ronaldo, beautiful. See, I read a lot about this over the last 24 hours. Ronaldo with a beautiful crossing. They call it a pass or a kick?
Just a cross.
Just a cross.
Yeah.
A beautiful cross that was headed into the goal by Valeri.
I can't remember who.
I think it was Valeri on that. They go by first names in Portugal. So it was unbelievable. I mean, that was completely unexpected and unbelievable at the very end.
The thing is, I don't know that much about soccer, but I know this. You're going to turn the ball over. Frankly, they blew it because they sat on that lead.
Oh, they got too cautious.
They had a couple of chances. You remember when they got in the corner, the center of the ball, they elected to just stand there and let the clock run instead of finding it. Because they tell you not to get too aggressive because the other team can go on the offense real quickly. But in this case, you needed that other goal. You definitely needed the other goal. And then when that extra 5 minutes popped up there, they needed all 5 of them, but they got the goal. So I think that's what cost them. I think they got too cautious.
We're going to talk with somebody who actually knows something about soccer, and that is Doug Allison, longtime coach at Furman. He coached Clint Dempsey. I want to find out more about Clint Dempsey. I mean, this guy is a world superstar. And
he was close to being offside, too, with that goal.
That's true. He was. He almost went into the net, didn't he? That would have been a no-goal. So we're going to talk about that later. USC picks up one football commitment today from a cornerback, may pick up a second one tonight. Details coming up.
In lieu of Tom Hayes Day, I'm officially rocking the Tom Hayes. Indeed. Just a little patience in the world. That's what we're missing in the universe. I wear it proudly on my chest. All right, you got 3 spots tonight, PS. Stand by.
Got a lot of news to catch you up on, and of course, we'll catch up on your phone calls. Lots to talk about from over the weekend, and we can, of course, continue talking about the upcoming football season. 800-956-7266 is our number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter, our Twitter address is at sportstalksc. The website, sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network. Don't forget now, you can always catch us if you can't hear us over the airways for one reason or another. Catch our audio feed on our website, sportstalksc.com. It's right up at the top of the page. Just click on the link that says listen to Sports Talk. It's pretty easy to follow. And then you can also watch the show because we have our Palmetto Pride webcam going every night, either when we're here in the studio or if we're on the road somewhere. You can watch us in action. That's down at the bottom of the page at sportstalksc.com. So you can listen and you can watch Sports Talk every night should you lose us over the airwaves. Still have the same poll question up we had last week. If you haven't had a chance to jump on that, USC's regular season win total this football season will be 12, 11, 10, 9, or 8. And so far, 32% say 11. 25% say 12, 18% say 10, 12% say 8, and 10% say 9. So about 13% of the votes think the Gamecocks will lose 4 regular season games this coming season. So if you have not voted, take the time to do so on our website, sportstalksc.com. Now to the news, because we've got a lot of it for you today. First of all, the Gamecocks get a commitment in football from Jair Alexander. He's from Charlotte. He's a cornerback. He's played 1 year of cornerback, which was last season. He made 43 tackles and had 7 interceptions and broke up 14 other passes. And he came to camp at USC earlier this month with no offer. though South Carolina had been recruiting him some, with Sean Elliott, his primary recruiter, but Grady Brown, the secondary coach, stepping in when it came down to decision-making time. And Grady Brown paid him a visit to his high school, and that's Rocky River High School in Charlotte. And he came to camp with no offer, worked out, apparently impressed everybody on the defensive side, and they made him an offer. Came back on Saturday with his parents and looked around, checked everything out, and then today he committed to the Gamecocks. He becomes the 18th commitment for USC's 2015 class, including the third for the secondary. Now, the Gamecocks are on commitment watch right now for Damon Arnett from Fort Lauderdale, who also was in this past weekend with his family. He camped at USC as well, and just for the day, and he wanted to come back with his parents to take a closer look, which he did today. And he is supposed to announce something tonight. He's not given us a time on when that will happen. He did tell us that he's made his decision. South Carolina, Kentucky, and Ohio State were his final three. And so we're just kind of waiting to see when he puts the word out that he has made that decision. And, South Carolina having been the place he just visited, and he has talked pretty strongly about the Gamecocks. We talked with him yesterday after his visit to USC, and he had a lot of positive things to say. But he also enjoyed his visit to Kentucky, and he plans to visit Ohio State later on this summer. But if he commits elsewhere, he might not make that visit. So we're waiting to see what happens with Damon Arnett from Fort Lauderdale. Former Shrine Bowl defensive lineman from South Aiken, Josh Brown, who originally committed to Clemson out of high school but could not get in for academic reasons and went to Marshall, where he played last year. Today he enrolled at South Carolina State, according to his coach, Jeremy West, who took him over to Orangeburg to get him started in classes at South Carolina State. He'll be eligible to play right away this coming season at State. Last year at Marshall, he had 17 tackles and a sack. So Josh Brown is now at South Carolina State. Let's see. Monty Lee, the Charleston Post and Courier, reports that Lee has been offered a 7-year contract extension to stay at Charleston, and they're going to up his salary from $115 to $193 per year if he decides to stay. Lee's been at Charleston for 6 seasons, took the Cougars to a super regional this season, reportedly is the favorite to replace Tim Esme at Arizona State, who was forced to resign with 1 season left on his contract. See, we talked about this back when it happened, back when all the Jack Leggett stuff was going on. Mm-hmm. Tim Esme's record. Now, I don't know what the competition was like. It is, of course, the Pac-12. I don't know about the non-league competition, but his record at Arizona State, when he was forced to resign, 201 wins, 94 losses, and a tie. And he took them to the postseason every year they were eligible, yet they fired him. He was earning $200,000 a year at the time he was fired. So Charleston's trying to counter. There was a story written by somebody out at Arizona State that covers the Sun Devils on Monty Lee over the weekend. It was kind of a warning column towards Monty, like, be careful what you're stepping into if you decide to come to Arizona State. But here's the interesting thing. This guy wrote, I don't think he quoted Monty, but he said Monty's life, his dream job is Clemson. Like this guy wrote, this reporter for out in Arizona, he wrote that Monty's dream job is Clemson. So this guy's thinking, Monty might get a boost at Charleston and just stay there and then see what happens at Clemson with Jack Leggett over the next couple of years, and then he might have a chance to move into his so-called dream job, according to this guy. So, but anyway, Charleston is trying to entice him to stay put at this particular time, according to the Charleston Post and the Courier. The USA national baseball team, of course, is on tour, and last night they won 4-2 against a team from the Coastal Plain League, and Skylar Hunter from the Citadel pitched an inning of shutout ball for Team USA. Also on Team USA from Clemson, Chris Oakey, and from the College of Charleston, Bailey Ober. And in fact, they're coming to Columbia this week to play the Blowfish over at Capital City Stadium. Let's see. What else do we have for you here? This is an interesting story out of the Charleston paper. A proposal to ban so-called dad coaches from high school sports in Berkeley County is getting some people up in arms. And some athletic directors and coaches are concerned. The Berkeley County School Board, which meets tomorrow night, is considering a proposal that would prevent volunteer coaches from coaching their own children at the varsity and junior varsity levels. More than 350 people have signed a petition to protest the idea. So what do you think about that? If they pass this, for example, the Hanahan High School principal, Rick Raycroft, estimates he has 6 volunteers coaching their own children. And so this is something apparently is going to be considered at the school board.
I'm not so sure I like this.
Jeff Cruz, the football coach and AD at Berkeley, said there are about 20 parents coaching their own children in their athletic program at his school. He said losing these coaches, most of whom are assistants, would decimate some of the programs. It would devastate some teams, he said. So I'm sure this is the case at schools all around Berkeley County.
I don't like the move because I think people are not seeing the forest for the trees. The way our society is now, Phil, and I know, you have a son that's now out of the nest, grown, got his own job. But the way society is now, people working longer hours, kids have activities, it's hard enough for dad to spend time with his son. I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for a dad to spend time with his son. These people looking at coaches. There's a dad out here with his boy. What better way can it be? I mean, come on, people.
Well, I agree, and hopefully they'll knock this thing down tomorrow night. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. Our phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, if you haven't signed up to follow us on Twitter, we encourage you to do so. Our Twitter address is at SportsTalkSC. You get to follow us on Twitter and see the stuff that we report and see the stuff that we write and all the stuff that we retweet from others that we follow. In fact, K-Mac was just so kind and so generous and so nice over the weekend to tweet a picture from the beach where he and his bride were spending the weekend. And I think the bar that they were relaxing at. So we appreciate K-Mac keeping us up to date with his personal and social life via Twitter. We're all interested in where he spends his weekends. By the way, as you noticed, the empty chair is K-Mac. He is not here again tonight. He will be back from his little break tomorrow night. 800-956-7266. Some more notes for you. And Clemson is losing a basketball player, a reserve, who has decided to transfer. Ibrahim Djambo, who only played a season for the Tigers after transferring from Three Rivers Junior College in Missouri, is departing. He played in 32 games last season, averaging 1.9 points, 9.2 minutes per game strictly as a reserve. So, Ibrahim Djambo, we hardly got to know you, and he is gone. Speaking of Clemson athletics, how about this story? This was weird. First of all, I still have a hard time with the fact that Al Jazeera has a television network in our country.
Well, it was purchased with legal tender.
Well, it was, yeah. It was purchased by a former vice president and former presidential candidate who made or presidential candidate who made a ton of money off the transaction. Al Jazeera America investigating the subject of compensating NCAA student athletes. And where did they go to shoot a segment on all this? Clemson. A large part of the broadcast, which I think aired Saturday night, was shot at Clemson. An 8-minute segment of the program called Fault Lines was set entirely at Clemson. And specifically, since former Tiger cornerback Darius Robinson is a plaintiff in the Ed O'Bannon case. He graduated after 38 games and 25 starts. He did not field questions about his involvement in the case during his senior season. He opened up for the program at Clemson's spring game April the 12th. And his quotes included, "We've been working hard our whole lives since we were 6 or 7 years old. So for someone to say because you're a student athlete, you can't even promote yourself and be who you are, I find that very disrespectful." And there's some other juicy stuff from this story we'll get into after the break. I don't know if you got a chance to see it on television Saturday night. Fault Lines on the Al Jazeera America network. Be right back.
I guess. You give me his name. Who did? We did? Come out.
And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, the Professor Tom Hayes, State Man Graham Pope, all together on this warm afternoon here in the Palmetto State. Appreciate you being with us. 800-956-7266, the number. I want to get back to this story on Al Jazeera visiting Clemson. And Doug Allison going to join us at 7:14, talk some World Cup soccer and talk some Clint Dempsey and ask him his opinion on the way they handled things in the last couple of minutes of that game yesterday with Portugal. But anyway,
10 minutes.
Yeah, going back to the story with Al Jazeera visiting Clemson for this story they did, Fault Lines, in which they're talking about college athletes and, of course, getting paid or being compensated for their likeness or for their abilities, whatever the case may be. And they sought out Darius Robinson, who, of course, finished his career at Clemson last year. But this was largely shot during this past spring game on April the 12th. And for this show, they shot footage inside a Clemson apparel store on campus. And they pointed out Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins were signing autographs for money while their jerseys continued to be sold, not profiting the players. Neither Boyd nor Watkins were quoted in the story. Neither were any current Clemson football players, though Fault Lines interviewed Cole Stout and Vic Beasley following the spring game. And they also quoted Dabo Sweeney in the piece, and he said, quote, "We try to teach our guys use football to create the opportunities, take advantage of the platform and the brand and the marketing you have available to you. But as far as paying players, professionalizing college athletics, that's where you lose me. I'll go do something else because there's enough entitlement in this world as it is." Then the producers point out that Sweeney makes $27.15 million in his 8-year contract. And they also report 86% of college football players live below the federal poverty line. Well, I mean, yeah, they don't have jobs while they're in college playing college football. So they're going to be below the poverty line. You okay, Pro?
Well, like any other student who can get a job, they can't because they don't have a job. They play football, which is a sort of 18-hour job, isn't it?
Clemson officials with knowledge of the Fault Lines piece weren't pleased with Al Jazeera, leaving out Sweeney's well-documented opinion, which he has routinely expressed in recent years since the pay-for-play topic became a hot-button issue. Let's see, what else we have here. Blah, 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 blah. Fault Lines followed a Clemson tour group and interviewed a store clerk, but the only Clemson-related source quoted in support of NCAA reform was Robinson. And here's more of what Robinson had to say. Quote, "We're the marketers. We're the ones marketing Nike here at Clemson, the paw." He said this in an interview inside Death Valley during the spring game. He continued, "We're making people go, 'Oh, Dad, I want those Nike gloves. I want those Nike cleats. Matter of fact, can I get them in orange? Can I get them from Clemson? I now understand what I gave away, and that was who I was. In some people's eyes, I became more of Clemson's possession." End of his quote. Robinson was a free agent with the Buffalo Bills, signed a contract with them after not being selected in the draft. So there you go. I disagree with Darius because you might think you gave up a lot, but you got a lot. You got a free education. You got the opportunity to get new clothes, new jerseys, new, everything that you wanted to wear in a football game provided to you, all the latest that Nike makes. Again, and we've recited the things ad nauseum from here about the good things you get as a college athlete on a full scholarship and the benefits that you do receive. So I think that you're being a little bit selfish as an athlete when you say that you don't get anything from being in college.
But
you don't gain anything from your scholarship and from your college career.
They don't express it good enough, but what he's saying is the freedom involved with having folding money. You have things, but those things are predicated on you continuing towing the line. You want to have a little free money where you can invest it, maybe buy somebody something, buy yourself something.
How about investing in education?
There's something to be said for having money in your pocket.
Can't you invest in that?
That is correct. As any other student who may be good in chemistry gets a part-time job working on campus or works with research, and he gets money in his or her pocket.
Yeah, but again, those student athletes who are impoverished, who meet the federal guidelines for various forms of other scholarships can get that money. And we're talking about like Pell Grants and things of that nature. That's readily available for the student who comes from a difficult economic background, who doesn't have the money to go buy a jacket or a meal or whatever the case may be. He can apply for and readily receive that money, and those that do will tell you they send that money home to support the family back home. So, now obviously that's not enough money, and that's my concern about when we go to this thing about full cost of scholarship and all that. You start with this, okay, fine. You're going to give the football players, let's say, $3,000 a season or something like that. Okay, that's a nice starting point, but 4 or 5 years down the road, the next group's going to want 5,000 or 7,000. Where do you stop? Where will it end?
Here's where you start. If you say that America is a marketplace and you have the opportunity to use your talents for marketing, okay, fine. Go to the Olympic model. If you can market yourself, go right ahead. Jadeveon Clowney got $50,000 last year. Oh, second string tackle got only $5,000. Well, that's because he's more marketable than you are. That's the free enterprise system.
But see, so then we are totally getting away then from what college athletics is supposed to be about.
It hasn't been that way for a long time,
Phil.
Well,
they're fighting to keep it that way.
No, that's
on some fronts.
That's a lost fight. Everybody's caught every day. Money under the table, inducements here, stuff on. Forget about it. That's long. That's a pipe dream.
Well, it'll be sad when that day comes, because
it's already here.
Well, no, I mean these. They're still trying to keep the reins on it as best as they can, but you're right. I see where those reins are deteriorating.
Oh, yeah.
The outside pressures from now you got the startup of a union, and now you've got these lawsuits moving forward and all of this, and you got the talk of the Super 5 conferences doing their own thing. They're going to write their own rules. So, maybe like I suggested before, that when you write your new rules, just write yourself in as a minor league. And also just allow these athletes to be athletes. Don't worry about them going to school. You can write the rules the way you want to write them if you're going to go off and be your own league, the Super 5 conferences. You're going to make all this money, so just make everybody happy. Make yourself happy. Make the athletes happy. Make their families happy. Make their agents happy.
Time out.
Make their uncles happy.
You don't make your family happy, because I think that's where the education comes in. The parents still going to want the education.
Apparently, though, the education is secondary to those who are pushing for the monetary side. The education is secondary. because that never is brought up as something that they appreciate. You never hear these guys
Since
who are begrudging the
2008
system.
recession, everybody talks about economy, and they want their piece of the pie. Anytime you're in a recession, money hits the pay window.
All right, going to hit a break, and we'll be back. More sports talk coming up.
What can't you get a concussion from nowadays? Yeah, that turd ball. Yeah, that turd ball was afraid of the ball. Well, it's got a lot of protective crap inside. I don't know what material's in there, but it's huge. I can almost guarantee a new era or somebody paid him to wear that damn thing too. Hey man, what do you think to look like a turd for an extra $50,000? What do you think? Who was it? Who are you talking about? How long ago was that? I can understand guys with histories, especially like a Chapman now, or you think about like Derek Deese, the old tackle for the 49ers, had that extra shell on top. I mean, I get that. Yeah. About to call him here in 45 seconds. Did you give him the Michael Irvin and Philly treatment?
Well, it's too bad the Braves weren't playing the Redskins over the weekend in D.C. We could have had a national debate about the use of those names, but it was the Braves and the Nationals. And the Braves won the first two, lost the last two, and they're now a game and a half out of first place in the National League East. They're off tonight. They head to Houston. Tomorrow we welcome in Mike Morgan of the Braves TV network. And so they had a chance to do something good over the weekend. They ended up not doing anything much good.
Well, I don't know if I'd put it quite that harshly, but they took 2 of 4, depending on how you want to look at it. On the road, I think you might not be happy about it, but you're at least content if you're a Braves fan. At least I think you should be. I mean, Washington is a good team. They are in first place for a reason. And I think what we found out, or at least what we confirmed, kind of what we already knew, and that is they have terrific pitching. And they might have, quite frankly, better pitching right now than the Braves do. I don't think either lineup is scary. I mean, I don't think Washington has a great lineup, even when Bryce Harper is healthy. I think both these teams, either one of them or both, if they get to the postseason, will struggle to score runs against elite pitching. But when they're on, they both can pitch well, and I thought Tehran pitched well. Mike Minor pitched well, even though he got a no decision. But at the end of the day, the Nationals were just too much in the second 2 games, and their guys, including Tanner Roark yesterday, just shut down a Braves offense that just it continues to be anemic. I mean, we can break down and analyze every move that Freddie Gonzalez makes in terms of batting order and who's in the lineup this day versus that day. It's not going to change the fact that this is not a great offensive team unless they make some kind of move between now and the trading deadline.
Yeah, to me, the weekend is a microcosm of the Braves season. They give you tremendous hope, and then somebody reaches for the offensive faucet and just turns it off, and then it's gone. You know, the interesting thing, though, Mike, we can recall when the National League was known as the running league. You know, you start things up. Even the Big Red Machine had Joe Morgan and base stealers at the top of the order. Are we going to see a return to that? Because it seems like with the Braves, their hitters are fastball hitters. Breaking pitches just drive them nuts. And it seems to me, in the long run, this team has got to be discussing the fact that they got to have a leadoff hitter who's a threat to run to get more fastballs for those hitters.
I think we might have stumbled upon the longest question in the history of the Braves report, bro. that was good, man. I didn't know where exactly you were going.
Let's see if we can counter with the shortest answer.
Okay, I would say this. No, I mean, your point's a valid one. I would just say the problem is they don't have a whole lot of guys that can run. Jordan Schaefer would be the leading candidate. He's not a good enough hitter to stay in the lineup every day. So who do you rely on? Jason Hayward has stolen more bases this year when he gets on, but this is not a particularly fast team either. So while you might want to make a move towards being a more aggressive team on the bases, you just don't have the personnel to steal a whole lot. B.J. Upton will be another guy, but he never gets on base, at least not enough to be a guy that steals 30 or 40 bags.
All right, what's the pitching lining up for the Houston series? What's it looking like?
Oh, goodness. Well, they got a day off today, as you know, and then we look forward. I haven't even broken down the rotation for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but looking at based on who they've already thrown, they just went with Santana, Tehran,
Harang pitches too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it basically go Harang and then the same 4 guys that we just saw, Santana, Minor,
Wood will go in there.
Tehran. Yeah, Alex Wood is. Glad you mentioned that. Alex Wood is going to start on Wednesday, and that's kind of the biggest news of the series. I think Alex Wood is a guy that's going to get back in the rotation for good. I don't really think he ever earned a demotion, quite frankly, but just interviewed him the other day. He was over there in Gwinnett. We talked to him. He's really excited. He feels much more comfortable as a starter than a reliever. So you'll see him on Wednesday, and I think that's not going to be the last time you see him in a starting role for this team.
Real quick, tell us about the pitcher, the right-hander they called up from Gwinnett over the weekend to replace Beato.
Beato. Well, you've got Buchter, Jaime, and Beato are the last 3 that they called up.
Yeah.
Juan
Jaime.
Yeah, Jaime is a flame-throwing right-hander. Doesn't have Craig Kimbrell stuff, but he will throw extremely hard. The problem with him, he's still working on his control a little bit. But he definitely has a major league fastball. There's no doubt about it. So another hard thrower that they can call upon when needed.
Yeah, and Butcher was the other one called up, Ryan Butcher.
Yeah, Booker's got really nasty stuff. I think Booker, quite frankly, is that's how you pronounce
Booker,
a little bit.
Sorry about
defies the spelling.
Yeah.
But Booker's a guy I think really has the best stuff of any of those guys. So the three you just mentioned, Booker is the guy that's got the most long-term potential, I think, in the bigs.
All right, Mike. Sorry we took you to the break, but we appreciate it. Booker, Buchter. Be right back.
Hey, you only went 2 questions too long that time. Corn, wrap it up. Anyways, Mike, what about this? Corn, I really need to wrap it up. Well, Mike, tell me more about this. Who cares about the music? It's crazy how visible it is to see the toll it takes on the back. 'Cause, I mean, I used to love watching him at Georgia because he would, as soon as he got hit, he'd get hit by like 5 monsters, and he'd hop up in front of them all extremely, extremely fast and run back to the huddle. That was like his thing, to show you that you weren't hurting him. But I mean, he's so much slower now in the league. I mean, and he's taking so many hits. You took guns out there? You took guns out there? Stand by.
And we thank Mike Morgan for all his great information. Our Braves Report tonight brought to you by Whit Suber of Home Shop Realty, where you pay less for more. Call 803-518-3888 today and experience the home shop difference. And by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals. The championship series of the College World Series begins tonight. Vanderbilt and Virginia. Exciting win by Vanderbilt in 10 innings the other day to stay alive, defeating Texas. Virginia 3-0 through their run through the series. The pitching matchup tonight's going to be what, Prep?
It's going to be right-hander Walker Buehler, sophomore for Vanderbilt. Left-hander sophomore Nathan Kirby going for Virginia.
Yeah. Of course, if Virginia wins, it'll be the first ACC team to win a national championship in baseball since Wake Forest in 1955.
Or was it 54? It was 55?
55.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked it up. Wow. 1955.
That's 59 years.
I was just sitting here and we were talking. Of course, I get no sympathy from the state man. No sympathy sought, state man. I'm not seeking sympathy.
That's not what it sounded like to me.
No, I was just saying I feel for the media guys out there because I can tell you the media hotel is, well, it's just okay. All right. No, you're not staying. If you're staying at the media hotel, you're not. It's right by the airport. Okay. And it's right across from a
landing strip.
Well, it is right. It's right down from an airport, and it's right down from a. Oh, come on! Why is my brain not working tonight? You actually go back into Iowa. That's because you're the state line between Nebraska and Iowa is right there. So the motel is actually in Nebraska, I believe. But you cross back into Iowa to go to the airport, and also there's a place you can go wash your clothes just down the street.
Sounds like a tough life. I don't know how you did it.
Where you can
Well,
lock,
I'm just going to say after
you can
about
lock a
13
laptop
days,
in it.
if you're covering one of these two teams, you've been there probably since
Sitting in a chair,
well, you got to go
getting
cover
audio,
practices,
watching baseball.
you got to go
for a
cover
living. Wow, terrible.
practices, you got to write your stories, you got to do your production. The whole thing is not just it's not just a cake and ice cream there, Steak Man, like you think it is. It comes across like steak and ice cream and cake because they do a great job, but the behind the scenes work is quite taxing. So all I'm saying is, it's a by the time you finish up the College World Series, you come home, you got no summer left because these guys, a lot of these guys will be covering football, and they've got SEC and ACC media days coming up in 2 weeks. They're going to come home and realize their entire summer was shot.
Yeah, you watch baseball though. That was great, and as you said, that was a great ending.
If you're a Virginia media guy, you've seen 3 games. Your team has played 3 games in 2 weeks, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not. I mean, that's stupid. That's not fun. You spend more time at practice than you do.
But you're Virginia, and you're in the national championship game. You love that. If
you're the fans and the players, of course. I'm just saying the griping media is probably griping about it.
That was our Britt McHenry reporting. Her stepfather said, that at every level she's had someone that's doubted her. She just keeps proving them wrong.
That's a lot better than the pitching machine they used the other day that Joyce rattled around. See you on ESPN News.
Wow, when did they do that? Shows you how much I care about SportsCenter anymore. Here's Skip Bayless making vomit out of his mouth. But he's wait, we're doing 7-12-ish. You hit okay. That's what I was wondering. I don't know if you want to go the LRA route, make it easy on yourself. Play volleyball. Oh yeah, SBDS or something. Or Saturday down south. Think so. Again, I don't really follow that kind of stuff, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's right. Ain't never had time for a blog. All out of bubble gum. All right, gents, one more out.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, Monday night from our studios in downtown Columbia. Glad that you're with us. Phil Kornbluth, Professor Tom Hayes here. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Coming up, Doug Allison, soccer coach at Furman and a former star at South Carolina, USC's all-time goal scorer. Will join us. He's been at Furman now, 18 years, I believe, 18, 19 years. And, of course, one of the folks that he coached is Clint Dempsey, the captain of the USA World Cup soccer team. Had a goal yesterday, the 81st minute, to put the Americans ahead 2-1. You kind of thought they were going to go ahead and win that thing. Didn't turn out that way. They ended up with a tie. But it's tough because they could have gone ahead and punched their ticket into the what's called the knockout round, the round of 16.
Mm-hmm.
They can still get there, of course, by beating Germany on Thursday, or should they lose or tie Germany, there's still a scenario where they can advance from what's called the bracket of death.
I think I do like they say in the NBA, it's a conspiracy. They did it so they'd have to play his home country of Germany to get through them.
The coach, you mean?
Yeah, the coach.
Yeah.
Get to. In fact, they interviewed his brother, and his brother had a wry smile. Who will you be rooting for? Well, I live here in Germany. I love my brother, but I live here in Germany. I root for Germany.
A couple of other notes, and Doug Allison coming up in a couple of minutes. Clemson's K.J. McDaniel is going to work out for the Hornets tomorrow as the draft, of course, comes up on Thursday. Clemson announced today that Bob Mahoney, who's been associate director of IPTAY since 1989, has added the responsibility of executive director of the Tiger Letter Winners Association. And he'll continue to be a key player in the major gift fundraising division of IPTAY as he takes over the letter winner responsibilities from Bill DeAndre, who retired last month. Mahoney, of course, a former Clemson baseball player, co-captain of the 1976 team that won the ACC regular season championship, the ACC tournament, and went to the College World Series. He's also the color commentator on Clemson baseball on their radio network. So congratulations to him on that. Raymond Felton will not be going to jail after reaching a plea agreement on 2 felony gun charges in court today in New York. As part of the agreement, he will have to plead guilty to at least one of the felony gun charges: criminal possession of a weapon in the 3rd degree or criminal possession of a firearm, complete 500 hours of community service, pay a $5,000 fine, register as a gun offender, and waive his right as a defendant to appeal the case. So not all is good, but he is avoiding jail.
Welcome to the North, my friends. Straight buffoonery. Bring them on back down south, back home. Have all the guns you want, my man. You just offended? Never shot anybody? Come on down. Offended? Never heard of it. Alexa, you really stunk as a professional soccer player. Tell us more about it. What was his name, Corn? Was it Cubby Jones or something? I have to look it up because I wonder who it is. I'd like to hear what he had to say. Anybody's better than Alexi.
Where the first goal talks about his reaction and the team's reaction when Portugal scored their second.
I think a lot of players was upset, but I think it's normal when you're so close, like to be maybe in the next round, you make your job done, and you give it in 30 seconds out of your hands, and nobody's happy about that. But we have still everything to.
Stand by, guys.
All right, coming up in just a minute, we're going to visit with Doug Allison, Furman soccer coach, talk about yesterday's exciting World Cup match between the U.S. and Portugal and what's ahead for the Americans. Play for your chance to win big with the big $10 ticket instant game from the South Carolina Education Lottery. You could win up to $250,000. All right, let's welcome in Coach Allison to Sports Talk tonight. And first of all, Doug, good to have you with us. How are you?
Great, Phil. Thanks a lot. Doing great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So what were you doing and thinking with about 20 seconds to go in that match yesterday? Did you think it was over?
Yeah, I think everyone did. We were actually watching with a couple of hundred kids here at camp up at Furman. We were all in a big auditorium. They were all dressed up in red, white, and blue, and the flags were flying. And you know, when they tied it up, it was great. But when Clint scored to make it 2-1 with about 7 minutes left, you know, everyone's watching the clock, and it was going so slow.
Yeah.
And then, you know, with about a minute left, I mean, they get the ball, and it's down in the corner. They could have held it, and 25 seconds left. The guy on the ball, Bradley, could have kicked the ball into the stands, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And and then it just shows you that soccer goes down to the last 20 seconds. You have to focus, and from being qualified and in the next round to hoping, and got to go to another result is it kind of felt like a bit of a defeat, to tell you the truth.
Absolutely. What did you see? I know Bradley had the turnover, and Portugal comes down on the break, but what did you see? Were there some breakdowns defensively? Were there some things the Americans could have done in those last few seconds defensively to thwart what they were going to do?
Yeah, there was. As far as I saw, there was about three things. One, when you're winning 2-1 and the game's won, you don't go for a third goal. When you're down in the corner, you don't cross the ball. You sit on the ball. You get a throw in, you get a foul. That was number one. Number two is Bradley. I don't know what he was doing in the middle of the field with 25 seconds left to try and take someone on. But the last one, I mean, the Portuguese guy comes running through 4 American defenders. If you look at it, the cross is a fantastic cross, and the header was good. It was a world-class goal, but there was an extra guy just subbed on. Omar Gonzalez was just subbed on. They had 3 center backs. And the Portuguese guy runs right through 4 American defenders. So took his goal well. I mean, I think everyone was a little disappointed. It kind of deflated everyone's parties that was around the country.
No question. No question.
Well, tell us this, as a novice viewer of soccer, I think Dempsey was taken out of the game. They went to, I think, Wondolowski, who seems to have tremendous strides and tremendous speed. And it seemed like at the 5-minute mark, there were a couple of times before stoppage play, so I guess you could add that in and say it was about 10 minutes to play. And Wondolowski looked like he had a couple of opportunities when he held the ball in the corner to maybe center it and get that third goal. The philosophy of holding onto the ball and not exposing your defense by being over-aggressive, explain that to us.
Well, I mean, with about 10 minutes left, I mean, going for a third isn't a bad idea. I mean, that kills the game. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. I mean, every striker, I mean, he comes on as a sub in the World Cup, and he wants to score a goal or he wants to create a goal, and that's understandable with 10 minutes left. That does kill the game and deflates the other team, and they were done. They were completely done. If you saw their body reactions, I mean, the Portuguese team was done. But in the 95th minute at that point, as a world-class player or a professional player, they really need to know what to do. And it was just disappointing. And I'm sure they felt they had it. And it's just a human reaction. You feel like you have it. And with a minute left, holding the ball in the corner can create a foul. I mean, there's 97 yards to go to score. Mm-hmm. With about 25, 30 seconds left if you just hold the ball in the corner. But I've seen it happen before. It happens a lot. I mean, and you actually teach that in youth soccer. Do you teach the kids, go to the corner, go to the corner? And it's just a natural human reaction to try and score another goal. I mean, and put your name on the score sheet, as every good forward wants to do. But at that point, for the team and for the country, it's you hold the ball.
Well, explain to us also Dempsey's goal. How close was he to being offside on that?
He was close, but good forwards are always close. They're always pushing the line. They're always playing off the shoulder of the last defender. And one good thing about Clint is he never stops moving in the box. You'll see on any rebound, he's always around the box. He always moves. And that's why he's so elusive. I mean, he scores goals, very, very scrappy goals, just like the one off his stomach or chest, or whatever it was yesterday. They all count. And, God, to have the captain of the World Cup team, scoring 3 World Cups in a row is pretty proud for us here at Furman.
No question. Well, where did you get him from? Tell us a little bit of background on Clint and how he developed over the years at Furman.
Well, we actually saw him at the ODP program. I worked closely. I actually worked with Coach Burson over at South Carolina when I came up here. We worked together on the ODP programs, and I saw Clint as a junior in high school, and then in Alabama when we were at the recruiting camp. And actually, he was a very talented player, and he wasn't the best player in the class at the time. Ricardo Clark from Atlanta was the top recruit in that country, and we got both of them to come here. And Clint was very interested in soccer. Obviously, his parents wanted a good school and a safe environment. But to be honest, Clint was very, very interested in bass fishing.
Bass fishing?
Yeah, and we've got a beautiful lake on campus here. There's some amazing lakes around the mountain areas around Greenville.
Yeah.
And so I told him he was allowed to fish in the lake anytime he wanted to, which was complete untrue. And he just loved it. I mean, he came in and he was just such a good talent, but he off the field. He just wants to relax and he wants to fish. I mean, that's what he loves doing.
Amazing. Did you see anything in him back during his days at Furman that would have led you to believe he would become, what he has become worldwide as a soccer player?
It's hard to get that reaction. I mean, he was obviously very talented, and he was actually a lot bigger than people would realize. I mean, he was about 6'2" and lanky at the time, but he was always trying things in training sessions that people have never really seen at that time. But what makes him pretty special is he was always trying that stuff in games too. And a lot of people can try it in training when no one's looking, but he tries things in games. You saw him try a little trick outside the box yesterday, let the ball through his legs and clipped it with his back leg. It didn't come off, but a lot of people would have not even tried that. They're very, very safe. And he's thrilling to watch, and he scores goals. And obviously in college you never know where they're going to go. But to become a pro and to become possibly the best U.S. soccer player ever, it's an amazing rise, and it's a testament to his hard work. He's challenged himself at every level. He's challenged himself to be the best, and a lot of people said he couldn't do it from the trailer park he came from in Nacogdoches, Texas. and now he's leading his country on the biggest world stage and the biggest sporting event in the world. And to have him come through Furman University was such an amazing thing. And he's a great kid. He's someone he's a loyal son. He's a great father of 3 and married a Furman girl too. And definitely keeps in touch with all his teammates. And it's nice because my assistant coach at the time, Anthony Esquivel, right now, he was a teammate of Prince, and they were together down in Jacksonville in the friendlies before the World Cup. And the kids are walking on the beach together. Their wives are together. They were sorority sisters. And, it's a great feeling. And he's someone that remembers it. And when he was here, my oldest son, Callum, was born. And Clint remembers him, and when he came back to Seattle, his first game back in the MLS, Clint invited us out to the game, and after the game he said, "Bring Callum to training tomorrow." And I took him to training session, and Clint said, "Hey, little baller, let's go to practice." And he grabs Callum and goes off to practice. And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what about me?" He goes, "Coach, I'm going to teach him some real soccer now." So it's for a little boy of 12. What an amazing thing. And Clint, as a dad now, realized that and took my son. So I'm now the father, and it's such a proud moment for me to have my son walk around with Clint. It was such a weird feeling.
Wow. Great stuff. Coach, we thank you very much, and we appreciate you being with us, and good luck moving forward with you and your program, and also, of course, good luck to Clint's and the Americans as they try to get into that round of 16. We got to hit a break. Got news of a Gamecock football commitment for you coming up.
One of my best friend's older brothers played club ball with him in Texas. All right, stand by.
All right, thanks again for Coach Allison for being with us tonight. Doug Allison talking about Furman and Clint Dempsey and the American soccer team. So he noticed the breakdowns there in the last few seconds and things that they could have done to perhaps prevented that tying goal the other day. And we appreciate him being with us, and we'll keep in touch with him. You want more out of your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online, and to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. I mentioned that South Carolina has just gotten a commitment, but not from who we've been waiting on, not from Damon Arnett, but tweeting out a commitment to South Carolina, somebody, in all honesty, we haven't followed very much, Octavius Johnson. He's an athlete, listed as an athlete, from Homerville, Georgia. And my specifics on him, 5'9", 175. And it was South Carolina and Clemson last time that I'd seen something on him. He was going to visit Clemson for the spring game. Clemson, South Carolina, Florida State, and Auburn were some of his offers. So he becomes South Carolina's 19th commitment and second for the day. And they still wait on something from Damon Arnett, perhaps tonight. Arnett told us earlier today he would do something tonight, that he'd made up his mind after visiting South Carolina this past weekend, but still nothing has come from him as of this moment.
Now, you said it's 19 because you continue to count Sawyer.
Yeah, I count Dante Sawyer because he's going to have to come in with this class. Now, will they be able to count him back on last year? I don't know, but I keep my numbers the way I keep my numbers. So I try to keep the classes together based on when they come into school. Well, based on when they begin their career by that season.
Okay.
So he would begin his USC career with the 2015 season. That's how I keep up.
And he would have 3 years.
He would have 3 years, yes. If he plays at the junior college, doesn't redshirt. If he plays at the junior college, then he would spend a year.
And then he would have 4 years to play 3.
He'd have 4 years to play 3.
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. So that is the latest from South Carolina, and we'll try to get you more information on Octavius Johnson if we get an opportunity to. I also want to mention this: Wake Forest has picked up a transfer basketball player, one of these fifth-year guys, Darius Leonard, transferring from Campbell to Wake Forest to play his final year of eligibility. He's 6'9", 225, averaged 10 points and about 5 rebounds per game last year. So here's the case. He actually began his career at Kent State.
Wow.
Then he transferred to Campbell, and now he's finishing up at Wake Forest.
And remember, Wake Forest is now under the coaching of Danny Manning.
That's correct. All right, we're going to hit a break, and we'll come back and give you some more updated information. If you'd like to jump on board, 800-956-7266, the phone number. Back in a moment. We'll get to the full recruiting report in just a few minutes here on Sports Talk. But again, defensive back Octavius Johnson on Twitter has announced a commitment to South Carolina. He wrote, quote, "Just committed to South Carolina. Blessed Gamecock Nation." Octavius Johnson, athlete from Homerville, Georgia. So he is the 19th commitment now for South Carolina, the second of the day, and will they get a third in Damon Arnett as we still wait on something on that? Arnett has not responded to us, our inquiries here the last couple of hours after exchanging text messages with him earlier today. So South Carolina on a bit of a surge here, recruiting-wise, over the last week or so since the Gamecocks had their camp, and they have boosted their class to near capacity, getting up there, and still they have several other big-time players still available on their board that they want to wait and see on to see if they can get here. I hate to say down the stretch because the signing period is not till February. It just feels like everybody's rushing to get it done by July 4th, which, you know, there is no rush unless you're fearful of losing your spot at a particular school. That would be the reason to rush if you feel like you're going to be shut out. But if you're a good enough player, a school will oversign and make room for you for sure if you're that good.
You got any feeling on either observing Clemson and South Carolina over the years? Everybody says once they come for the second visit, but isn't it a fact that when the mother or both parents come on the visit, that's when you get a feeling that it's serious at that point?
Well, yeah, a lot of times if you get the parents on campus with the prospects and they like what they see and you connect with them personally, then you've got a good chance of getting the player. In the case of Damon Arnett, for example, he was at USC's camp, which was Friday a week past, and he was there by himself. He wanted his parents to see everything, so they apparently drove back up on Thursday and stayed through Sunday afternoon, and then went back down to Fort Lauderdale. And I think the feeling was, you know, once the parents came on campus, they'd have a good shot to get him. And he told me early this afternoon that he had made up his mind and would be announcing something tonight. But so far, I've seen nothing come out from him. We continue to wait from a South Carolina standpoint on a decision from Damon Arnett, who would be apparently another good pickup for them in their secondary. They've gotten 3 commitments for their secondary from true cornerbacks and safeties at this point in time. And again, this Octavius Johnson listed as an athlete, meaning he could play in the secondary or he could play in the backfield or he could play in a receiver's role. That's why you list him as an athlete. One interesting note, too, I saw where Josh Kendall did a breakdown on South Carolina's commitment class by state. You realize the Gamecocks only have one South Carolina player in their commitment class at this point. Of their 19, only one is from South Carolina. Clemson has 3. So, and let's see, Clemson's at about 19 commitments, I think. Carolina's at 19. That's 38 commitments between the two of them, and only 4 from the state of South Carolina.
And then, of course,
now there's a couple out there still hanging, like Albert Huggins and Zach Bailey, to name 2 in-state that the in-state programs are going to try to keep in-state. But that's a significant small number between Carolina and Clemson for in-state takes in a particular recruiting class.
But this is not a particularly tremendous year, is it, for prospects in South Carolina? Or is this
well, I mean,
year?
we're looking at a lot of players leaving the state. Tyshawn Williams, a running back from Crestwood, may or may not stay in state. Rasul Clemens from South Aiken is probably going to leave the state. Jonathan, linebacker, running back from Swansea, who we'll be talking about, Jonathan Sutton, going to North Carolina. And we've seen quite a number of players leaving the state for one reason or another, and most of those haven't been that heavily recruited by the 2 major in-state schools. So their best option was to leave the state.
And, of course, Clemson has been very aggressive in North Carolina for several years, in Georgia and Florida, same as South Carolina. It looks like that same area that they look at, North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. But now you see South Carolina stretching and Clemson stretching its tentacles up into Virginia. South Carolina with a player from Missouri, Louisiana, Alabama again. So it's interesting. I think both of these teams have evolved, Corn, with the advent of ESPN and the various conference networks. They're national brands now. There's no doubt about it. And kids from other parts of the country, at least within, I guess you could say, 1,500 miles of South Carolina, looking at Clemson in South Carolina as possible.
No question. Here is the breakdown in state of committed players that I've recorded, in case it's possible that I've missed something here, but the ones that I've had recorded. Michael Barnett, the defensive end from Woodland, going to Florida State. South Carolina's lone in-state take thus far, Shamik Blackshear from Bluffton. Then Clemson with, I said 3, I should have said 4. No, I take that back. They've got 5. My bad. How did I miss this? They've got 5. Kelly Bryant from Wren, Gage Cervinka from Emerald, Caleb Chalmers from Greenwood, LaSamuel Davis from Bamberg Earhart, and Noah Green from Boiling Springs. That's 5 for Clemson. T.J. Haney, who is going to Wake Forest, the offensive lineman from Gaffney. Freddie Phillips, the wide receiver from Pelion, going to NC State. Jonathan Sutton, the linebacker from Swansea, going to North Carolina. So those are the ones that I have, in case I've maybe missed somebody. But then you got the Richardson kid from up at Burns, who's gotten a lot of offers. Arcega Whiteside, the receiver from Dorman's gotten a lot of offers, but not much of a sniff from the in-state schools at this point in time. So, and they're filling up, and they don't really seem to be showing that much interest in them. As I look at some of the players left in-state who have not made decisions, Albert Huggins, Zach Bailey, those would be 2 of the top ones. Rasul Clemens, the defensive end from South Aiken, would be another one. Tyshawn Williams from Crestwood. South Carolina is recruiting him pretty hard. Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Georgia, in on him pretty hard as well. But, as I look down the list, Pro, I think you're probably right. It's not a year where, in terms of numbers, it's a big year in state for producing Division I players to play at the SEC, ACC level. And I guess that's being reflected by what South Carolina and Clemson are doing with their respective classes, having to lean so heavily on out-of-state talent. All right, let's see what else. Kyle Parker is back in the minors. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
His stay with the Rockies was short-lived. He was sent down on Saturday to make room for left-hander Christian Frederick. Parker went 0 for 6 in his first taste in the major leagues, and he's hitting .292 with 7 homers and 38 RBIs over 66 games at Colorado Springs. So got a little cup of coffee and sent back down to the minors. Athlon's All-American team, preseason football. 2 Gamecocks, 1 Tiger. South Carolina offensive guard A.J. Cann, running back Mike Davis, named to the Athlon preseason All-American team. Cann actually named on the first team, Davis on the third team. And from Clemson, Vic Beasley was named to the first team defense. He was the only Tiger selected for the team. And I think we have covered pretty much everything of note. So we'll come back and update the recruiting in a moment.
What a bum. Yeah, what was his problem? Well, I know he's already got one eye, right?
All right, the recruiting report coming up here on Sports Talk in just a moment. Hey, you want more out of your education? Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. To find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. All right, let's give you the recruiting. We've talked a lot about some of this stuff already tonight, but we'll recap it again. Defensive back Jair Alexander, 5'11", 170, out of Charlotte. Strong camp performance earlier this month at USC earned him an offer. Then a good experience over the weekend at USC on a visit earned the Gamecocks a commitment from him today. Alexander had been committed to Charlotte before attending USC's camp earlier this month. Gamecock secondary coach Grady Brown, who had checked on Alexander in the spring, liked what he saw in person, and made the offer. Alexander came back with his parents for a visit Saturday. That was enough to convince him to accept the offer. He also considered Connecticut, Louisville, and Kansas State. He said he liked the sense of urgency, the way that Grady Brown offered him at the camp and then stayed on him, and he thinks he can play early and play big-time football. Feels like USC offers him that combination of both. He likes the coaching staff. Last year, in his first year of playing cornerback, 48 tackles, 7 interceptions, and 13 pass deflections. And he said that Brown was impressed by his size and his length and his fluidity in his hips, and he has good recovery speed. He said going to the NFL is something that's important to him, and he feels playing in the SEC will help him take that step to the league. So that was commitment number 18, and then just a little while ago, athlete Octavius Johnson of Homerville, Georgia, tweeted out a commitment to the Gamecocks, 5'9", 175. And South Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Tennessee, Auburn, some of the schools that were heavily on him. In a recent story, he said his top 3 at that time were USC, Clemson, and Tennessee. And today he tweets out a commitment to South Carolina. And the Gamecocks are waiting on Damon Arnett, cornerback from Fort Lauderdale, who said this afternoon that he's made up his mind after visiting USC over the weekend, and he plans to have an announcement later tonight. He just wasn't sure yet. That was this afternoon. He attended USC's camp earlier this month, was back with his parents for a 3-day visit over the weekend. He's also been to Kentucky and is scheduled to visit Ohio State July 26th. He's had the Gamecocks, Wildcats, and Buckeyes as his top 3. Also over the weekend, wide receiver Juval Millette of Randleman, North Carolina, committed to North Carolina while attending a camp there. Clemson, Tennessee, Michigan, Virginia Tech were his other favorites. And North Carolina, long the favorite of Swansea linebacker Jonathan Sutton, and he committed to the Tar Heels while at a camp there over the weekend. Of course, he missed most of last season with a torn ACL, but North Carolina stayed on him, never wavered in their interest in him. Plus, he feels their depth chart at linebacker is small, so he thinks there's a chance for some early playing time. NC State, Virginia Tech, Duke, Louisville, Tennessee, Auburn, Georgia Tech, Georgia, LSU had also offered him. Defensive end Darian Roseboro, linking to North Carolina, said he'll announce his college choice within the first 3 weeks of the school year. USC, Clemson are on his short list of 11, and he plans to visit USC this week. Shy Tuttle, that's Perry Tuttle's nephew, big defensive tackle in North Carolina in the Greensboro area. He tweeted out a top 5 today in no order: Clemson, Tennessee, NC State, North Carolina, and Miami. And in basketball, Rajon Tucker, 6'5", from Charlotte, made an unofficial visit to Clemson today and was offered by the Tigers. He also picked up an offer from VCU over the weekend, and he's a guy whose stock is rising. Some of his other offers are Virginia Tech, Rice, Boston College, Charlotte, Presbyterian, Wofford, Western Kentucky, Abilene Christian, UNC Greensboro. Did I say Wofford? Wofford as well. He averaged 12 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists per game. And he was at Clemson today on an unofficial visit. And there you go with the recruiting poop for tonight. Yes, recruiting poop all over your head for tonight. Don't forget, you can always follow recruiting online at our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, follow the hashtag STRecruiting. Back in a moment.
Corn's starting to get a little soft for soccer. He's going to be watching with bated breath on Thursday. Noon o'clock, Corn, don't miss. You've been sucked in by Dempsey. Don't worry, he got me in, what is this? 08, I guess it was. Stand by.
All right, it's been a very, very busy day here on Sports Talk. A lot of stuff going on, and we'll keep it up through the rest of the week. Clyde Wren is going to be with us tomorrow night for a few minutes early in the program to talk about a big event he's got coming up next month here in Columbia, July 24th, featuring Brett Favre. Told you about this about a month ago or so, and he'll be here to give us more details, and you'll find out how you can get tickets and how you can meet Brett Favre, and you can hobnob with one of the greats of the game in the NFL. I mean, let's face it, Brett Favre, one of the all-time great NFL players.
You know, the interesting thing is now it gets scary. See, if I'm an athlete, and I understand you have your convictions, but, you know, I would like to kind of stay away from certain things, and now we see guys in these primary races like Brett Favre doing a commercial for a candidate in Mississippi, Herschel Walker's doing a commercial, which is running on cable everywhere. I mean, you see Herschel talk about a candidate in Georgia on the cable. You guys might want to stay away from politics, if at all possible.
Only if you're backing a winner. And if you're backing a loser, yes, you want to get as far away as possible. This other note from the day, and that is that Southern Cal says they will now offer 4-year scholarships in their revenue sports. And this will be football, men's and women's basketball. This will be in lieu of current practice of offering 1-year renewable scholarships. This announced today by the athletic director. So around here, I'm trying to remember, have we had anybody, Clemson or South Carolina, make the formal announcement that they're going with 4-year scholarships? Do you remember? I'm trying to remember if we've had that around here or not. There's somebody. Oh, was it Alabama? Somebody in the SEC, I think, announced it there. I think it was Alabama. Look it up, State Man. I think Alabama was the one that said they were going to go to 4-year scholarships. Now Southern Cal is, and I'm sure that's going to be a trend because it becomes a recruiting tool for you. Hey, come to our place. Your scholarship's guaranteed for 4 years.
2012, Saban announced they would have 4-year scholarships.
Oh, he announced it, but I mean, is that the policy for the school? Do we know?
Let me double check.
There's a policy of Nick. If what Saban says goes.
Well, usually that's the case, but I mean, until it comes from the AD's office, and this is coming from Pat Hayden, the AD at Southern Cal, and this is effective July 1st. So those folks going into Southern Cal this year as freshmen, guaranteed 4-year scholarships.
I gotta get the feeling that with the landscape in the Pac-12 now, where Oregon has for years and Washington to a lesser extent siphoned off talent in Southern California, the advent of Stanford's program, growing programs at Arizona State, guys coming into Southern California, and of course crosstown UCLA recruiting players. Southern Cal thought they had to make this play, I think.
All right, well, listen, thanks for being with us tonight here on Sports Talk. We certainly appreciate it, and thanks to Coach Doug Allison for being with us as well. Clyde Wren in tomorrow night and a bunch more, and we'll see you tomorrow.